Jake Morrison floated in the pilot seat of his old ship, the Lucky Strike. He was tired, very tired. 3 weeks of searching through space junk had given him almost nothing. His bank account was getting lower each day. Soon he would need to find real work, the kind that kept him on a planet for months. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," Lisa Park called from the engine room. She was the best engineer Jake had ever worked with, even if she was only 25 years old. Her small hands could fix anything, and her mind was always 3 steps ahead of everyone else. "What kind of strange?" Jake asked. He pushed himself toward the main controls. "In zero gravity, everything took longer than it should. There's a signal coming from Sector 7. It's weak, but it's definitely artificial." Lisa's voice carried a note of excitement. Finding anything artificial in this dead system was like finding gold in a garbage dump. Ben Collins, their navigator, was already pulling up the scanner data on his screen. Ben was older than both of them, maybe 50, with gray hair and steady hands. He had been flying between stars since before Jake was born. "It's about 2 hours away at current speed," Ben said. "But Captain, the readings are weird. This isn't human technology." Jake felt his heart speed up. Non-human technology was worth more than anything else they could find. The Earth government paid huge rewards for any alien artifacts. Even a small piece could pay for ship repairs and food for 6 months. "Set course for the signal," Jake ordered. "Maximum speed." The Lucky Strike wasn't much to look at. She was 30 years old, patched in 100 places, and made noise when she shouldn't. But she was home, and she had never let them down when it really mattered. As they got closer to the signal, Jake started to feel nervous. In all his years of salvage work, he had never found anything truly alien. There were stories, of course. Other salvage crews claimed to have seen strange ships in deep space. But Jake had always thought those stories were just talk, the kind of lies people told in bars after too many drinks. "Captain, you need to see this," Ben said. His voice was quiet, almost a whisper. Jake looked at the main screen. There, floating in the darkness, was a ship unlike anything he had ever seen. It wasn't made of metal like human ships. Instead, it seemed to be grown like a living thing. Smooth curves flowed from one section to another. Strange lights pulsed along its surface in patterns that hurt to look at directly. "How big is it?" Jake asked. "About the same size as us," Lisa answered. "But Captain, it's in bad shape. I'm reading hull breaches, power failures, and life support is almost gone." Jake stared at the alien ship. Part of him wanted to run. Meeting aliens was something governments did, not salvage crews with old ships and empty bank accounts. But another part of him, the part that had kept him alive in dangerous situations, was telling him something important. "Are there life signs?" he asked. Ben worked his controls for several minutes. "I think so. The readings are strange, but there might be 2 beings still alive on that ship." Jake closed his eyes. He could leave right now. Report the ship to the authorities and collect a finder's fee. It would be the safe thing to do, the smart thing to do. But if there were people dying on that ship, could he really fly away? "Lisa, how long before their life support fails completely?" he asked. "Maybe an hour, maybe less. That ship is dying, Captain." Jake made his decision. "Ben, take us closer." "Lisa, get the rescue equipment ready. We're going aboard." "Captain, this could be dangerous," Ben warned. "We don't know anything about them. They could be hostile. They could carry diseases we can't fight." "They could," Jake agreed. "But they're also dying. And I won't be able to live with myself if I let that happen when I could have helped." Lisa appeared in the doorway, already wearing her spacesuit. "The rescue equipment is ready, Captain. But our medical bay isn't designed for aliens. I don't know if we can help them even if we get them back here." "We'll figure that out when we have to," Jake said. He was already putting on his own spacesuit. The old thing was patched and repaired almost as much as his ship, but it still kept him alive in the vacuum of space. The airlock on the alien ship was different from anything in Jake's experience. Instead of a simple door, it seemed to flow open like water when he approached. The corridors inside were dark, filled with a strange mist that his suit's lights couldn't penetrate very far. Jake followed his scanner toward the life signs. The walls around him seemed to pulse with a faint light, as if the ship itself was alive. Strange symbols covered every surface, shifting and changing when he wasn't looking directly at them. Deep inside the ship, Jake found what he was looking for. 2 beings lay in what looked like emergency sleep pods. They were tall and thin, with skin that seemed to change color in the light. Their faces were almost human, but not quite. Everything about them was elegant and strange. Jake checked his scanner. Both beings were alive, but barely. He had to work fast. Getting them back to the Lucky Strike took 40 minutes. Just as Jake sealed the airlock behind him, the alien ship exploded in a flash of light that left spots dancing in front of his eyes. Now he had 2 dying aliens in his medical bay, and no idea how to save them. For 3 days, Jake watched the aliens sleep in his medical bay. Lisa had done everything she could think of. She connected them to human life support systems and gave them fluids through tubes, but nobody knew if any of it was helping. Jake barely slept during those 3 days. He kept thinking about what would happen if they died. Would other aliens come looking for them? Would they blame humans for the deaths? Jake had saved them from their dying ship, but what if that wasn't enough? On the morning of the 4th day, one of them opened its eyes. Jake was sitting beside the medical beds drinking coffee that had gone cold hours ago. When he saw the alien looking at him, he nearly dropped the cup. "Hello," the alien said in perfect English. Its voice was soft and musical like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "You can speak our language?" Jake asked, leaning forward. "Not exactly," the alien replied. "I have a translation device in my mind. It lets me understand and speak many languages." The alien tried to sit up, but Jake gently pushed it back down. "Don't move too fast. You've been hurt pretty badly." The alien studied Jake's face for a long moment. "You saved us. I remember now. Our ship was dying and you came aboard even though it was dangerous." "Anyone would have done the same thing," Jake said. The alien's eyes widened. "No, they would not. In my experience, most beings think only of themselves when there is danger." The second alien began to wake up. This one looked exactly like the first, except for small differences in the markings on its skin. Jake realized they must be twins. "Zara, are you well?" the first alien asked. "I'm alive, Kale. Thanks to this human." Zara's voice was also musical but deeper than her brother's. "My name is Jake Morrison," Jake said. "This is my ship, the Lucky Strike. My crew and I found your ship sending a distress signal." Kale and Zara looked at each other. Some kind of silent communication seemed to pass between them. "We owe you our lives, Jake Morrison," Zara said. "In our culture, this creates a debt that can never be forgotten." "You don't owe me anything," Jake replied. "I just did what was right." Lisa appeared in the doorway. "Captain, how are our guests?" "We are much better, thanks to your care," Kyle said to Lisa. He reached into a pouch on his clothing and pulled out a small device that looked like a crystal. "Your ship's engines are old and tired. This will help them run better." "You don't need to do that," Lisa protested. "Please," Zara said. "We must do something to show our gratitude." Lisa looked at Jake, who nodded. She took the crystal device and went back to the engine room. A few minutes later, they all heard the engines change their sound. Instead of the rough rumbling they were used to, the engines now hummed smoothly. "What did you do?" Jake asked. "The crystal optimizes energy flow," Kale explained. "Your engines will now work at 90% efficiency instead of 40%. Jake was amazed. The Lucky Strike hadn't run this well since he bought her 10 years ago. Ben appeared in the doorway. "Captain, our navigation system just got a lot more accurate. And my arthritis doesn't hurt anymore." Zara held up another small device. "I made some improvements to your computer systems and synthesized medicine for your friend's joint disease." "This is incredible technology," Jake said. "Are you some kind of scientists?" Kale and Zara looked at each other again. "These are just basic tools," Zara said. "On our world, every child learns to use such things." "Your world must be amazing," Lisa said, returning from the engine room. "I've never seen anything like this technology. Our people have been traveling between stars for thousands of years," Kyle explained. "We have learned much in that time." Jake sat down heavily in a chair. "Who are you, really? I mean, you're not just ordinary travelers, are you?" Zara was quiet for a long moment. "We were running away when you found us. There are people on our world who want us dead." "Why?" "Because of who we are," Kyle said. "And because of what we represent." "I don't understand." Zara took a deep breath. "Jake Morrison, we have not told you the complete truth about ourselves. We are not ordinary citizens of our world. We are members of the Royal House of Thylaxi. In your language, you might call us Prince and Princess." Jake stared at them. "Your royalty?" "Our family rules one of the most powerful nations in what you might call a galactic government," Kale explained. "Many worlds and many species belong to this confederation. And you know about Earth? About humans?" "Yes," Zara said quietly. Your species has been watched for many years, but most of our people believe humans are too violent and primitive to join our confederation. Jake felt a cold weight in his stomach. What do you believe? Until 3 days ago, I believed the same thing, Kyle admitted. Your species fights wars, destroys your environment, and treats each other badly in many ways. But you changed your mind. You risked your life to save 2 strangers, Zara said. You asked for nothing in return. You have shared your food and medicine with us. This shows a nobility of spirit that my people said humans did not possess. Most humans are good people, Jake said. We make mistakes, but we try to do better. That is exactly what I hoped you would say, Zara replied with something that might have been a smile. Kyle leaned forward. Jake Morrison, your actions have given us evidence that humans deserve a chance to join the galactic community. If you are willing, we would like to bring you before the Confederation Council as our witness. What does that mean? It means you could help decide the future of your entire species, Zara said. You could be the reason humans are finally allowed to take their place among the stars. Jake looked at Lisa and Ben, who had been listening quietly. Both of them nodded encouragingly. What would I have to do? Jake asked. Come with us to the Confederation capital, Kyle replied. Tell our leaders what you have told us. Show them that humans are capable of growth and goodness. Jake felt the weight of the entire human race settling on his shoulders. But looking at these 2 aliens who had become friends, he knew there was only one answer he could give. When do we leave? Jake sat in the comfortable chair that Zara had made for him. They were in the main room of the Lucky Strike, but it looked different now. The aliens had improved almost everything without changing the basic structure. The lights were brighter, the air smelled cleaner, and all the small noises that Jake had learned to ignore were gone. Tell me about this confederation, Jake said. How many species are we talking about? Kale activated a device that filled the air with tiny points of light. Each point represented a star system. Over 200 species belong to the Galactic Confederation. Some have only one world, others control dozens of systems. Jake stared at the display. There were so many lights that he couldn't count them all. And they all get along? Not always, Zara admitted. There are disputes and disagreements, but we have not had a major war in over 300 years. The Confederation provides a way to solve problems without violence. What about humans? How long have you known about us? Kale waved his hand and the display changed. Now it showed Earth, surrounded by what looked like observation posts. We have been watching your world for 60 years. At first we were hopeful. Humans had just begun to explore space. We thought you might be ready to join us. But something changed your minds. Your species began fighting wars with nuclear weapons, Zara explained. We watched humans kill millions of their own kind. We saw you pollute your world and destroy other species for profit. The Confederation decided that humans were too dangerous. Jake felt shame burning in his chest. Everything they said was true. Humans had done terrible things and they were still doing them. But we're trying to get better, Jake said. We've stopped testing nuclear weapons. We're working on cleaning up the environment. Not all humans are bad. That is what we hope to hear, Kale said gently. Your rescue of us proves that individual humans can be noble and brave, but the Confederation leaders will need more proof. Zara changed the display again. Now it showed different alien species. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Jake couldn't understand how they lived. The Zilithians believe humans are naturally violent, Zara explained, pointing to reptilian creatures with sharp teeth. They think you will bring war to the Confederation. The Crystalline Collective believes humans are not intelligent enough, Kyle added, showing beings that looked like living gems. They point to your short history and simple technology. And the hive minds think individual consciousness is primitive, Zara finished. The display showed creatures that looked like insects but moved with perfect coordination. What do you think? Jake asked. We think humans have potential, Kale replied. Your species is young, but you learn quickly. You make mistakes, but you also create beautiful art and music. You fight, but you also love deeply. The problem is that most Confederation members have never met a human, Zara added. They base their opinions on observations from a distance. They see your wars and pollution, but they don't see your kindness and creativity. Jake thought about this. So if I go with you and speak to their leaders, I'll be the first human they've ever talked to? Yes. And what you say could determine whether humans are accepted or permanently banned from the Confederation. The weight of responsibility felt heavier than ever. Jake was just a salvage operator. He fixed old machines and collected space junk. How could he represent all of humanity? I'm not the right person for this, Jake said. I'm not a politician or a scientist or a leader. I'm nobody special. That is exactly why you are the right person, Zara said firmly. Politicians lie. Scientists think only of facts. Leaders care more about power than people. But you are a human who acts from the heart. When you saved us, you didn't think about politics or profit, Kale added. You saw beings in danger and you helped them. That is the best of what humans can be. Lisa had been listening from the doorway. Captain, they're right. You represent the kind of human we should all try to be. But what if I say the wrong thing? What if I make them think worse of humans instead of better? Then at least we will have tried, Ben said, joining the conversation. If we don't take this chance, humans might never get another one. Zara stood up and walked to the display. She touched one of the lights and it expanded to show a massive space station. This is Nexus Prime, the capital of the Confederation. It is home to over 50 billion beings from dozens of species. Jake's mouth fell open. The station was bigger than Earth's moon. Thousands of ships moved around it like insects around a flower. The High Council meets there, Kale explained. Representatives from every member species gather to make decisions that affect the entire galaxy. How do they all communicate? How do they even breathe the same air? The station has different sections for different types of life, Zara said. Some areas are filled with water for aquatic species. Others have different atmospheric mixes. The council chamber itself uses advanced technology to let everyone participate safely. And you want me to speak to all of them? You would address the council as our witness, Kale confirmed. We would present your rescue of us as evidence of human character. Then you would answer their questions and tell them about your species. Jake looked at his crew. Lisa nodded encouragingly. Ben gave him a thumbs up. These people believed in him even if he didn't believe in himself. What happens if they say no? What if they decide humans can't join? Then nothing changes, Zara replied. Humans continue to develop on their own, and maybe in a few hundred years the Confederation will reconsider. And if they say yes? Then humanity takes its first steps into the larger galaxy, Kyle said. Your species will gain access to advanced technology, medical knowledge, and scientific discoveries. You will be able to travel to other worlds and meet other species as equals. Jake thought about all the problems Earth faced. Disease, poverty, environmental damage, conflicts between nations. Advanced alien technology could solve many of those problems. But he also thought about the responsibility. If humans joined the Confederation and then caused problems, it would be partly his fault. I need to know more about what I'm getting into, Jake said finally. If I'm going to represent humanity, I need to understand what I'm talking about. Of course, Zara agreed. We will teach you everything you need to know during the journey to Nexus Prime. How long will that take? In our ship, about 2 weeks, Kale replied. We have already sent a message to our family. A diplomatic vessel is on its way to pick us up. Jake took a deep breath. In 2 weeks, he would be standing before the leaders of hundreds of alien species, trying to convince them that humans deserved a place among the stars. It was terrifying. It was impossible. It was the most important thing anyone had ever asked him to do. All right, Jake said. I'll do it. But Lisa and Ben come with me. Of course, Zara smiled. We would not think of separating you from your crew. They are part of what makes you who you are. As Jake looked out at the stars, he wondered if he was making the biggest mistake of his life, or taking the first step toward humanity's greatest adventure. The Thylaxi diplomatic ship arrived exactly when Zara said it would. Jake watched through the Lucky Strike's viewing port as the alien vessel approached. It was beautiful in a way that made his chest tight. The ship looked like it had been carved from a single piece of silver crystal. No sharp edges, no visible engines, just smooth curves that seemed to flow like water. How does it move? Lisa whispered beside him. Gravity manipulation, Kale answered. We learned to bend space itself thousands of years ago. Jake tried to understand what that meant, but gave up quickly. He had bigger things to worry about. The transfer to the diplomatic ship was smooth. Jake, Lisa, and Ben brought only small bags with their personal belongings. Everything else would stay with the Lucky Strike, which would be safely stored until they returned. The inside of the Thylaxi ship was even more amazing than the outside. The walls seemed to glow with their own light. The floors felt warm under their feet and the air smelled like flowers Jake couldn't name. Welcome aboard the Harmony of Stars, said a new voice. Jake turned to see another Thylaxi, this one wearing elaborate robes covered in symbols that seemed to move. This is Captain Vex, Zara explained. She will take us to Nexus Prime. Captain Vex bowed slightly to Jake. It is an honor to meet the human who saved our prince and princess. I just did what anyone would do, Jake replied, feeling embarrassed by the attention. That is not true, Captain Vex said seriously. I have studied your species for many years. Most humans would have taken the technology from our ship and left us to die. Jake wanted to argue, but he wasn't sure she was wrong. How many humans would really risk their lives for complete strangers? As the ship began its journey to Nexus Prime, Jake found himself in quarters that were larger and more comfortable than his entire apartment back on Earth. The walls could display any view he wanted. He chose to watch the stars streaming past as they traveled faster than light. Kyle and Zara visited him every day to prepare him for what was coming. They taught him about Confederation history, politics, and customs. Some of it was fascinating, but most of it made Jake's head hurt. The Zilithian ambassador will be your biggest challenge, Zara explained during one of their lessons. His name is HFY, and he has spent decades arguing that humans are too dangerous for the Confederation. What's his problem with us? His homeworld was destroyed in a war 3,000 years ago, Kale said sadly. His people barely survived, and they have been afraid of violence ever since. When they look at humans, they see the same destructive potential that destroyed their world. But that's not fair. Humans aren't the ones who destroyed his planet. Fear is not always logical, Zara replied. HFY genuinely believes that letting humans join the Confederation will lead to disaster. Jake learned about other species too. The crystalline collective communicated through light patterns and thought humans were too slow to understand complex ideas. The hive minds worked together so perfectly that they couldn't understand how individual humans made decisions. How am I supposed to convince them? Jake asked after a particularly difficult lesson about Confederation law. By being yourself, Lisa said. She had been listening from the doorway. Don't try to be something you're not, Captain. Just tell them the truth about humans. What if the truth isn't good enough? Then at least we'll know we tried our best, Ben added. He had been exploring the ship and returned with stories about technology that seemed like magic. As they got closer to Nexus Prime, Jake began to see other ships. First just a few, then dozens, then hundreds, all different shapes and sizes representing species from across the galaxy. Look at that one, Lisa said, pointing to a ship that looked like a giant flower made of metal. That's a botanical Confederation vessel, Kale explained. They're a species that evolved from plants instead of animals. Jake stared at the ship, trying to imagine what plant people would look like. And that one? Ben asked, indicating a ship that seemed to be made of pure energy. Energy beings from the quantum collective, Zara answered. They gave up physical bodies millions of years ago. Jake felt very small and very young. Earth had only been sending people into space for about 100 years. These species had been traveling the galaxy since before humans existed. I'm not ready for this, Jake admitted. None of us are ever ready for the most important moments of our lives, Captain Vex said, joining their conversation. But we face them anyway because someone must. On the last day of their journey, Zara and Kale took Jake to the ship's observation deck. Through the transparent walls, he could see Nexus Prime growing larger ahead of them. The space station was beyond anything Jake had ever imagined. It was shaped like a massive sphere, but covered in spires and domes and structures that defied description. Ships swarmed around it like bees around a hive. Lights of every color flashed in patterns that might have been communication or might have been art. 50 billion people live there, Kale said quietly. From how many species? All of them. Every member of the Confederation has representatives on Nexus Prime. Jake felt dizzy. And I'm going to speak to their leaders. You're going to speak from your heart, Zara corrected. That's all anyone can ask. As their ship approached the docking area, Jake saw crowds of beings waiting to watch their arrival. News of the human visitor had spread quickly. Some of the watchers looked curious, others seemed hostile, and a few appeared to be taking pictures or recordings. Are they all here to see me? Jake asked. You are the first human to visit Nexus Prime, Captain Vex explained. Many beings have never seen one of your species before. No pressure, Ben muttered, which made Jake laugh despite his nervousness. The docking process took an hour. Jake watched through the walls as massive mechanical arms guided their ship into position, then walkways extended to connect with their airlock. "The High Council will meet tomorrow," Zara explained as they prepared to leave the ship. "Tonight you are invited to a reception where you can meet some of the council members informally. What should I say to them?" "Whatever feels right," Kale replied. "Remember, you are not just representing humanity. You are showing them what humanity can be." Jake took a deep breath and stepped through the airlock onto Nexus Prime. The corridor beyond was filled with beings unlike anything he had ever seen. Some were tall, some were short, some seemed to float instead of walking. All of them were staring at him. A being that looked like a walking tree approached them. "Welcome to Nexus Prime, Human Morrison," it said in a voice like rustling leaves. "I am Ambassador Grovesinger of the Botanical Confederation. We are curious to meet you." "Thank you," Jake replied, not sure if he should bow or shake hands or do something else entirely. "Your rescue of Prince Kale and Princess Zara has been much discussed," Grovesinger continued. "Some say it proves human compassion. Others say it was calculated to gain political advantage." Jake felt anger rising in his chest. "I didn't even know who they were when I saved them. I just saw people who needed help." "Interesting," Grovesinger said, tilting its head like a bird. "And if you had known they were royalty?" "I would have done the same thing," Jake said firmly. "Life is life, whether you're a prince or a nobody like me." Several nearby beings stopped their conversations to listen. Jake realized his first test had already begun. "You say life is life," Grovesinger continued. "But humans kill other humans in wars. You destroy other species for resources. How do you explain this contradiction?" Jake thought carefully before answering. "Because humans aren't perfect. We make mistakes, sometimes terrible ones. But that doesn't mean we can't learn and grow and become better." "And you believe your species can change?" "I know we can because I've seen it happen. My own grandfather fought in wars, but he spent the rest of his life working for peace. Humans are capable of great good and great evil. The question is which one we choose." Grovesinger was quiet for a long moment. Then it made a sound that might have been laughter. "You speak simply, but not simplistically. This is unexpected." As Grovesinger moved away, Jake realized that every conversation he had over the next few days would be like this. Every being he met would be testing him, judging whether humans deserved a place among the stars. The weight of his entire species' future pressed down on him. But Jake squared his shoulders and walked deeper into Nexus Prime. Tomorrow he would stand before the High Council. Tonight he would show these beings that humans were worth taking a chance on. Jake stood at the entrance to the High Council chamber, trying to calm his racing heart. He had barely slept the night before. The reception had been overwhelming. Dozens of alien species asking him questions, testing him, judging him. Some had been friendly, others suspicious, and a few openly hostile. "Remember," Zara whispered beside him, "speak from your heart. Don't try to be perfect. Just be human." The chamber doors opened and Jake's breath caught in his throat. The room was impossibly vast, with sections designed for different types of life. Some areas were filled with water for aquatic species. Others had different atmospheres visible as shimmering barriers. Energy beings floated in specially designed fields, while crystalline creatures sat on platforms that amplified their light speech. In the center of it all was a circular speaking area where Jake would make his case for humanity. "High Council," announced a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "We are gathered to hear testimony regarding the admission of the species known as humans to the Galactic Confederation." Jake walked slowly to the center circle, aware that hundreds of alien eyes were watching his every move. The diversity of life around him was staggering. Some beings looked almost human. Others were so alien that Jake couldn't even guess how they lived. "We will first hear from Ambassador Thexvor of the Zilithian Republic," the voice announced. A tall, reptilian figure moved to the speaking circle. Thexvor's scales were dark green with scars that told of old battles. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of centuries. "Honored Council," Thexvor began, "I stand before you today to warn against a grave mistake. The species called humans seeks admission to our confederation, but they are not ready for such responsibility." Images appeared in the air above the chamber, scenes from Earth's history. Wars, pollution, violence, destruction. Jake watched his species' worst moments displayed for all to see. "Observe their history," Thexvor continued. "Endless warfare. The poisoning of their own world. the extinction of countless other species for profit. In just the last century, they have developed weapons capable of destroying their entire planet, and they have come close to using them. More images appeared. Nuclear weapons tests, polluted rivers, clear-cut forests, cities choking in smog. They claim to have noble intentions, but their actions speak differently. Even now, as we debate their worthiness, humans wage wars against each other. They allow millions to starve while others live in excess. They destroy their environment for short-term gain. Thexvor turned to look directly at Jake. This human who sits before us may be an exception, but exceptions do not define a species. The Confederation has maintained peace for 3 centuries, precisely because we exclude violent, primitive races. To admit humans now would be to invite chaos and destruction. The reptilian ambassador returned to his seat, and Jake felt the weight of those accusations. Everything Thexvor had said was true. Humans did fight wars. They did damage their environment. They did terrible things to each other. We will now hear from Prince Kale and Princess Zara of the Royal House of Thylaxi, the voice announced. Kale stepped forward first. Honored Council, my sister and I came before you today because of one human's actions. When our ship was dying in the void, Jake Morrison risked his life to save us. He knew nothing about us, expected nothing in return, and gained nothing from his choice except the knowledge that he had helped fellow beings in need. Zara joined her brother. We have lived among humans for several weeks now. We have seen their technology, their culture, their daily lives. Yes, they have problems. Yes, they make mistakes. But we have also seen their capacity for growth, their creativity, their deep love for each other and for life itself. One human's actions cannot speak for billions, called out a voice from the crystalline section. You are correct, Kale replied. But this human's actions revealed something important. When faced with a choice between safety and compassion, he chose compassion. When faced with a choice between profit and principle, he chose principle. These are the qualities the Confederation values most. Zara activated a display showing recordings from the Lucky Strike. Watch how this human and his crew live. They share everything equally. They risk their lives for each other daily. They work together without coercion or hierarchy based on fear. The recordings showed Jake, Lisa, and Ben working together, laughing together, supporting each other through difficulties. It wasn't dramatic or heroic, just ordinary humans being decent to each other. This is not unusual among humans, Zara continued. In times of disaster, they risk their lives to save strangers. They send aid to enemies. They sacrifice for future generations they will never meet. These are not the actions of a primitive, violent species. Now, the voice announced, we will hear from Human Morrison himself. Jake's legs felt like water as he stepped into the speaking circle. All those eyes watching him, all those minds judging not just him but his entire species. He looked up at the assembled beings and found his voice. I don't know much about politics or diplomacy, Jake began. I'm just a salvage operator who fixes old ships and tries to make an honest living. But I know about being human. He paused, thinking about how to explain something he had never really thought about before. Ambassador Thexvor is right about our history. Humans have done terrible things. We fought wars, destroyed our environment, and hurt each other in ways that shame us. I won't try to excuse those things or pretend they didn't happen. Jake looked around the chamber, meeting as many alien gazes as he could. But that's not the whole story about humans. Yes, we fight wars, but we also write poetry about peace. Yes, we pollute our world, but we also spend our lives trying to save endangered species. Yes, we can be cruel, but we also dedicate ourselves to healing and helping others. The human who saved us spoke of your capacity for growth, said a melodic voice from the aquatic section. Can you give us evidence of this growth? Jake thought about Earth's history, about the progress he had seen in his own lifetime. 200 years ago, most humans thought slavery was acceptable. We changed our minds. 100 years ago, most humans thought women shouldn't have equal rights. We changed our minds. 50 years ago, many humans thought destroying the environment was the price of progress. We're changing our minds about that too. But you still have slavery in some parts of your world, challenged a voice from the energy being section. You're right, Jake admitted. We haven't solved all our problems yet, but we're trying. And the fact that most humans now see slavery as evil shows that we can learn, that we can become better than we were. Jake took a deep breath. This was the important part. I can't promise you that humans will never make mistakes again. I can't promise that we'll always make the right choices. But I can promise you that we'll keep trying to be better. We'll keep learning, keep growing, keep working toward the ideals we believe in. And what if you bring violence to the Confederation? Thexvor called out. Jake looked directly at the Zilithian ambassador. Then you stop us. You have the power to do that. But sir, with respect, keeping humans isolated won't stop us from growing or learning. It will just mean we have to figure everything out on our own, making more mistakes along the way. You ask us to take a great risk, said Grovesinger from the botanical section. Yes, I do, Jake replied. But isn't growth always risky? Isn't learning always dangerous? If you only accept perfect species into your confederation, you'll be waiting forever because I don't think any species is perfect. Jake looked around the chamber one more time. I'm not asking you to trust humans because we're good. I'm asking you to trust us because we're trying to be good, because we want to learn from you, to grow with you, to be part of something larger than ourselves. He paused, then added quietly, and because someday, you might need someone willing to risk everything to save strangers in the void. Jake returned to his seat beside Zara and Kale. Now all he could do was wait. The debate that followed lasted 6 hours. Species after species spoke about humanity's potential and humanity's dangers. Some argued for inclusion, others against. Jake listened to beings discuss his species like he wasn't there, analyzing humans like specimens in a laboratory. Finally, the voice announced, "The High Council will now vote on the admission of humans to the Galactic Confederation. A 2/3 majority is required for admission." Lights began appearing around the chamber. Green for yes, red for no, blue for abstention. Jake watched the colors multiply, trying to count but losing track quickly. "The vote is complete," the voice announced. "Of 312 voting members, 210 have voted in favor, 89 have voted against, and 13 have abstained. The motion passes. Humans are granted provisional membership in the Galactic Confederation, subject to review in 50 standard years." Jake felt his knees give out. He was sitting on the floor of the council chamber and he didn't remember falling. Around him, some beings were making sounds that might have been applause. Others were clearly upset and many seemed uncertain. "Congratulations, Ambassador Morrison," Zara said, helping him to his feet. "Ambassador?" Jake asked, still dazed. "The Confederation will need a human representative," Kyle explained. "Who better than the one who brought us together?" As Jake walked out of the chamber, he thought about what he had just done. He had